Good afternoon. This is Media Center, Ukraine, Odesa. Our next briefing is dedicated to educational process in Odesa, Oblast. Now we have with us Oleksandr Lonchak, Director of the Department of Education and Science of the Odesa Oblast Administration. The topics of focus include results of the first semester of the 2022-2023 academic year, organization of the educational process, and innovations for graduates in 2023. Thank you. Good afternoon to all the journalists, and thank you for focusing on one of the most important component of our work. Now we have been finalizing the most difficult 2022-2023 academic year. Under martial law, we every day work to ensure safe and secure environment for our educational institutions. Starting from April, we have defined the clear tasks to ensure the concept of educational institutions the safe place. Before the educational year, we have examined on all educational institutions. There were recommendations provided to ensure the protection and bomb shelters and establishment CCTV and the guard remote control. The examination committees include the representatives of the State Emergency Service, representatives of the National Police of Ukraine, healthcare institutions, and the educational experts. The results show that 942 institutions have bomb shelters, the simplest shelters, and old shelters nearby. Taking into consideration the positive results of the committee examination and taking into consideration also the opinion of parents, 135 educational institutions work online full day. Taking into consideration this situation, the Department of Education and Science recommended to create the short-term groups and duty groups in kindergartens with shelters. Also taking into consideration the opinion of parents, from the 1st of September, 331 schools were selected to work offline and in mixed format. 406 institutions use online format. Now everything is done for 450 schools to be able to work offline or in the mixed format. We have the students of 18 higher education institutions, 27 vocational schools, etc., that undergo education now. We have more than 145,000 of students that study offline. We also take measures for the children of IDPs were involved in the educational process. More than 9,000 children, the internally displaced children, are involved in the educational process of our region. More than 130,000 of students study online. We do everything possible for 40,000 of children who are now staying abroad, who are involved in the educational process using online tools for them to be further included in the Ukrainian educational system. We should note that local budgets this year have already envisaged 280 million hryvnias for shelters in educational institutions, for establishment of CCTV, and the police remote control. In 2023, there will be the state subvention for shelters in educational institutions. We also work with international organizations and donors to get additional support to close the issue of safety and security in Odesa educational institutions. The education environment has been adapting to the current condition. These are stabilized and emergency outages, and the internet connection issues have a significant impact on the educational process, but every child gets attention. We have recommended to the heads of the secondary and higher education institutions to use flexible schedule. Now, every educational institution has the model to organize educational process. There are also schedules to unite children of the same age and of the same classes according to the place of residence, and these schedules, blackout schedules. Some educational institutions have additional educational day. 71 schools have 2 duties for the educational process. We have taken all measures for the educational materials to be accessible and available to students. We have ensured constant communication with those who are involved in educational process. We recommend we have implemented the use of e-manuals. Students and teachers use the materials from the platform All Ukrainian Online School and the resources from other platforms, and also the resources that have been developed by the Department for Education and Science of Odesa Military Administrations and the Academy of Continuous Education. Using this opportunity, I would like to assure parents that all children will be assessed accordingly within the semester, taking into consideration all forms of educational activities. We will have online testing, diagnostic works, the oral answers, regardless of the whereabouts of a student. What the graduates can expect in 2023. Taking into consideration a range of challenges, we are not planning to have the external independent testing in the previous form, but we have been considering the possibility of improvement national multi-class testing that will include mandatory and additional modules. The mandatory module will include 4 subjects: Ukrainian language, math, history of Ukraine, and foreign language. And there will be 1 more day for additional testing in physics, chemistry, biology, and this result can be used to substitute the rate for Ukrainian language or history of Ukraine. The testing for the students 4th and 9 grades still there, but there will be some exceptions. We understand the necessity for preparing our children for the national multi-subject testing. The consultation centers are being established for children to be able to get additional knowledge and to cover the topics which are unclear for them. In these difficult times, together with the whole of Ukraine, the educational experts are involved in establishing the invincibility points in kindergartens, schools, vocational schools, and universities. There are 270 points like this already. We do everything possible to provide generators to all educational institutions and to the uninterrupted internet connection. We cooperate with international organizations and donors to get additional support to buy generators. The UNICEF provided humanitarian aid to the secondary and higher educational units, including first aid kits and hygiene kits to create proper conditions in shelters. And there were other special cases, the school in a box, and the special kits for the early development and children. One more important step is the support to the amount of 110,000 hryvnias for 70 basic schools in our region, which can be used for the reconstruction of boiler rooms, for buying generators and fuel for them, as well as computers. There is the program to support the food blocks for the basic skills that provide education in offline format. The financial support amounts to 80,000 hryvnias. And now Odessa military administration, Odessa Oblast military administration has done everything possible to join this program. With the new calendar year, the educational institutions of the Oblast will get 6,000 modern laptops within the initiative Laptop for Every Teacher. There is also the initiative of the Office of the President of Ukraine with the support of Odessa Oblast military administration. There was established the Spivdia hub for Odessa Oblast, including around 50 volunteers from active young people of Odessa. For the period of operating of this hub, more than 6,700 claims and requests have been processed, and more than 20,000 of personal hygiene kits have been provided. We also continue providing the competitions like international Dmitroyatics competition and also the international Taras Shevchenko competition. There were intellectual communications for the students of schools from villages. In the second semesters, we start the all-Ukrainian Olympic Games at the Oblast level. The educational institution continue the campaign Give a holiday for children. So there are the residences of St. Nicholas, their workshops to prepare presents for the armed forces of Ukraine. Of course, the change of holiday events, there is the change of holiday events, but no one can deprive our children from faith. Starting from the 25th of December, the most educational institutions in Odessa will have traditional winter holidays. Let them be safe and bring only positive emotions. Using this opportunity, I would like to thank the armed forces of Ukraine for their protection. Would like to thank colleagues for working in these difficult conditions. Would like to thank parents for their understanding together till the victory. Thank you for your attention. We have questions. There is the first question. What are the situations in the higher educational institutions in terms of organizing the educational process there? 18 higher education institutions work in the Odessa Oblast. Starting from the 1st of September, all educational institutions have introduced the mixed format of education, and now they have the traditional winter holidays till the 1st of February. Do we have the questions from the floor?
Unian.
So you've mentioned that from the first year, for the first time, the funds will be provided for equipping shelters at schools. There is the state subvention for organizing shelters in educational institutions. But do you have any preliminary information how much money, do you mean how much money is needed to organize one shelter? The preliminary information that Odessa Oblast will get 60 million hryvnias for such shelters. If we speak about the construction, then we'll be able to construct 4 shelters for this money. If we speak about repair, then of course we'll be able to repair more shelters. So 60 million just for schools. Yes, for schools of Odessa Oblast. Thank you. And one more question to clarify the following. You've mentioned that there are some general numbers of children. Does these numbers include IDPs and those who left Ukraine? Yes, of course, the internally displaced children. And you mentioned that there was a number of 9,000 people. 6,000 at schools, and around 1,000 children in kindergartens, and around 4,000 for higher and educational institutions and local schools. Live news. This year is very difficult because of the war. How many schools have been closed, or how many emergencies there were in the framework of decentralization at the beginning of this educational year? All educational institutions started working, but the organizational process is ongoing. The last year, the general amount of school was 737. As of 1st September this year, there are 625 schools. And I would like to make clarifications. Were the schools closed because of the war, or is this due to the optimization related to the reform of the education in schools? This is related to the reform envisaged by the law of Ukraine on educational. These are small schools that had around 10 students. I have one more question. So not all subjects can be taught remotely, like physical training lessons. It is very difficult to train children online. Are there any programs in relation to physical activity, or can you also share the success of school sportsmen, so for example, in international competitions? Of course, the physical training lessons are more complicated now, but our teachers are invincible and they are able to teach their subjects even online, according to the curriculum. But I would like to say that 450 schools now work using the offline and mixed format. So here, such PT lessons are offline. And we had different types of competitions for secondary schools. These are cool games at the national level. And we are now preparing for our children to be included in the Gymnasiada competition in Odesa Oblast. Olga Spector, Suspilna TV channel. So, are you going to change the amount of offline schools? Perhaps the subventions for shelters will allow you to increase the number of offline schools. Yes, of course, the number of offline schools will be increased. So we have been studying this issue with the parents. And if parents will state that they prefer offline educational process, then of course we will have offline schools. We have 625 schools in general, and I want all of them to work offline or in the mixed format. Do we have any other questions? Yes. The question about higher educational institutions, the question about dormitory, how many out of these 18 higher educational institutions have dormitories? And perhaps they are supported by other institutions, for example, in terms of providing accommodation for international students. Yes, of course, all higher educational institutions having dormitories also help to accommodate IDPs. We have analyzed the number of dormitories that can accommodate people. There are 10 higher educational institutions that have provided their premises for this. We have been now cooperating with different NGOs for repairs, for buying generators, for repairing boiler rooms, etc., to support IDPs. Thank you. If there are no other questions, we'll finalize our briefing. Thank you, Oleksandr, for being with us today and sharing with us the information about education. We hope to see you the next year with better news. Thank you very much for being with us today. See you next week. Thank you for your attention.